Well, thank you for the opportunity to update. So speaking on behalf of PAC UK, I think I've met and spoken to many of you now, Chief Strategy Officer at PAC UK, which I will share just a few updates if we can head to the next slide. So the first thing I just wanted to kind of reiterate is as really now PAC UK is live and operational, we have been doing a little bit of work in terms of the kind of overarching governance function and purpose and scope of PAC UK's work. And so what I wanted to just kind of quickly highlight, and that some of you may have seen slides similar to this before, is reiterate the message that PAC UK, whilst hosted by DEFRA, is performing a function on behalf of the four nations. It is responsible for operationalising policy decisions that are made across England, Scotland, Wales and Northern Ireland. I think that's really important in terms of the distinction where there will continue to be input from a policy perspective, from industry, from local authorities and from other key stakeholders that will provide that input through the respective policy teams. And really a lot of the focus at the moment for PAC UK is on making sure we're in a position where we're actually able to deliver the service that we are on point to provide, that we're able to transact those payments. And over time, of course, our intention is to be increasingly involved in helping shape that overall policy landscape and work with local authorities to support them in those efficiency and effectiveness measures that we are all working towards. Now, at the bottom of this slightly crazy diagram, you will see the producer responsibility organisation, which hasn't yet been appointed, and I will speak to that in a moment. But hopefully this is a helpful illustrative schematic to show how the different parts of this ecosystem work together and the regulators there across the board, across all four nations and across the various different stakeholder groups. If we go to the next slide. Oh, forgive me, skip through so it all loads up. I didn't know that was a sequence like that. I just wanted to give you a bit of the headlines of what we've got coming up between now and the end of the year. October, everyone on this phone call, I would assume, knows at this point that we issued the year one notices of liability. I won't go through some of the events for the purposes of this call. And so we thought it would be helpful to focus predominantly actually on what's coming up in November. Which includes the PRO appointment process, which I alluded to on the previous page, as well as informing local authorities of their year two payments and transacting the first ever payments to local authorities for Q1 and Q2 for the first year of the scheme. In addition, we are about to kick off and we'll be announcing soon the new PAC UK Scheme Administrator Steering Group that will replace the interim group that has been operating for the last couple of years. So that will be launching this year, and thank you very, very much to everyone who has been involved and put their names forward. It was a fantastic group of applicants to sift towards. I'm really excited in where that is landing. And we also, in a couple of weeks, have our first four-nation ministerial board for PAC UK and PPR. So just for you to be aware, some of the governance processes now starting to really take shape. If you click just one more on, we will see then what December looks like. And clearly this is not a complete picture. Back to the previous page. But December, just so you know what is coming, we will be publishing the year two illustrative fees. Now, again, most of you will know that is based on the calculations that are done for the year two payments. So all of this is kind of different sides of the same coin. We will also be concluding the local authority improvement action process pilots that are taking place in 6 local authorities across the 4 nations. And that is our way in which we will be working closely with local authorities to understand their performance metrics and incentivize and or disincentivize in future years using the financial levers that we have in our regulatory powers. And in parallel to all of that, we are developing the PAC UK longer term strategy. So some of you will have already be aware of the interim strategy that was published earlier this year. That is, this PAC UK 5-year strategy will not be completed before the end of the year because we want to make sure that we have the right engagement both across all 4 nations and with the new steering group and technical advisory committees and various other bodies. But that process is ongoing and look forward to working with you all on that. And as mentioned, the technical advisory committees meet quarterly for both the recyclability assessment methodology, the local authority effectiveness and efficiency, as well as the communications and behaviour change groups will be meeting again in December as well. So I'm now going to spend just a little bit more time on the sort of ABCs, and I'll do it in that order. just to share a little bit more detail about some of the key things that are coming up, but I thought I'd contextualize it first in that overall roadmap. So without further ado, the PRO appointment process, if we go to the next slide, again, some of you will have heard, and forgive us because these slides things have already moved on insofar as we actually launched the application process for the PRO this morning. So hot off the press. We have also laid the amending statutory instrument that will be required in order for PAC UK to have the ability to delegate some of its powers to the PRO that gets appointed. So we have been working with those candidates that expressed interest through the EOI during the summer, who have now all received the application form, but it is also something where there is further information on gov.uk, and there is a process in place for those who may want to receive what that application methodology or details look like, where that is available through the EPR customer support desk, and more information available online. What I say here, whilst the plan is for PAC UK to appoint in early 2026, that is likely to be March of next year, this is a multi-year process. And that means that the delegation of responsibilities will not happen overnight, and they will be subject to a series of conditions of appointment, which are still being fleshed out, such that there is sufficient confidence from PAC UK that the PRO and the PAC UK on behalf of the 4 nations is in a position to take over or start to lean into particular functions through a very sequenced process. Now, a reminder at this point that there are certain functions for which PAC UK is responsible that will remain sovereign. Those are particularly the functions that are related to the moving of the money. So this isn't about PAC UK delegating everything, but about making sure that we get the really positive industry engagement and the best bits of what industry can bring to make sure we are managing this across the value chain in an effective way. So I won't go into more details than that for now, but I think it's useful for you all to be aware, and we'll keep people updated. The closing deadline for the applications is Friday, the 12th of December. But again, that's when we then start to review the applications and have those conversations in the beginning of 2026. Secondly, if we go to the next slide, so B, and more hot off the press news with regards to local authority payments. So forgive me again, it's not reflected fully in the slide that you are looking at. But over the next 24 to 48 hours, the notices of assessment for Year 2 local authority payments will start to be distributed in England, Northern Ireland and Scotland. There is a slight delay for Welsh local authority notifications as we work through some ministerial input, but we hope that those will follow very shortly in due course. Now, there is unlikely to be any big surprises in those numbers because we have taken a decision with the 4 nations to operate on a basis where we use a very similar methodology to what was used in Year 1. And the reason we've done that is because of the feedback to create stability and to avoid big swings in payments that haven't yet been able to be planned in from a financial perspective. There is an inflationary adjustment that has been made in line with CPI, and so those numbers will have gone up from Year 1, but as I say, in line with inflation and nothing more. Now, to support that, we are going to be running a series of webinars in mid to late November. Once those, the letters right now, the priority is making sure that those are all going out to the right people with the right information. But we will then be setting up a series of sessions to share a little bit more about the methodology. We have had a lot of questions, understandably, and we are keen to work through as many of those as possible and to help make sure that we are as transparent about the way in which those payments have been calculated based on the data that has been received to date. Now, in future years, we will be considering how we can improve the model and work with local authorities and with industry to create something that both accounts for that stability, but also make sure that we're using the sort of latest and greatest data, and we'll be sharing more in those webinars, so I won't go into more here. Now, the main content of this slide is about the local authority payments. Those will be made over the course of the next month for Q1 and Q2 of next year. The way in which that will work is we will be sending grant determination letters, which outlines, again, the amount for year one that we paid, so the 2025-2026 payment. We are currently planning to issue those on the 30th of November. The cash transfers will then follow in a couple of days thereafter. And I won't go through it now, but the expected timelines for the Q3 and Q4 grant payments are also on the slide. The call out I wanted to make here is that the payments will be made to the bank details that were requested by PAC UK and previously provided. There are a couple of local authorities, actually more than a couple, where we haven't had those bank details confirmed. So it is really important that if you haven't responded to that request, please do so, so we can make sure, and we're going through the sort of financial checks at the moment, that all of those details are valid and ready to receive the money. And there will be communications, of course, when that grant letter gets issued, a remittance advice about the bank account that it has been paid into. So that is a brief update on the PRO and the local authority payments and year two notices of assessment. The final thing I wanted to cover, and appreciate in advance that these are slightly wordy slides, not my preference, but hopefully get some of the detail across, is if you go to the next slide, I wanted to briefly talk through some of the questions that we have had with regards to notices of liability from our obligated producers. I am somewhat hesitant to walk through these 3 pages of Q&A, huge amounts of detail, because a lot of the headlines is if you have specific questions, their ask is to reach out to the EPR customer service desk, and we will provide the details of that at the end of this presentation if it isn't already on your hotline. That is operating all day, every day during the working week, and there is capacity in that system to hopefully support on particular questions that you may have. But a couple of ones just to kind of quickly highlight around setting up instalment payments. Again, we have had a lot of direct debits and instalment payments already set up, so we know it is possible. We also recognize that there have been some challenges for some of the bigger producers, and we are following up with those affected by individual account managers. So again, if you do have any issues, the service desk will be able to support on that. But generally speaking, for the vast majority of producers, all of the information is available through either the notice of liability itself and what is available through RPD. And you can go onto the page where it says view and pay waste disposal fees for more information. If you believe that you have paid too much, or if you can flick to the next slide, you believe that your notice of liability is wrong, or you believe that you will need to resubmit your data, the request is the same: to contact the EPR support desk, who will advise on any issues that you may be having. As we have previously communicated, we aren't doing resubmission calculations on a rolling basis. That would not be a very effective way of managing this across the number of producers that we are working with. We are planning a recalculation in February of 2026. We will do our best to give any early indications of the impact based on the information that is provided, but please note that resubmitting data does not guarantee a revised notice of liability. We will only recalculate where we consider there to be a material difference between the amount the producer was previously assessed as liable to pay and the recalculated amount. Last page, if you go through to page 3 of 3, and I'm not catching the questions on the Q&A, but hopefully this covers a lot of the questions at least that we are receiving. Formal complaints or appeals do not halt the payment deadline, which is 50 working days, as previously communicated. And so again, if you have particular issues in paying by that due date, please let the EPR customer service desk know so we can work with you on solutions there. And then we have also just had probably more poor data than we would have liked, if we're honest, in terms of contact information where either the person responsible has left the organization, the notification's gone to the wrong person. In all of those instances, PAC UK are operating on the information that obligated producers have provided. We are doing our best to work with producers to make sure that that data is updated. But if for whatever reason you feel that the information has gone to the wrong person or you're not sure where it's gone, again, EPR Customer Service Desk can support, but please log in through your approved or delegated user and make any necessary amendments as soon as possible. And that way, and that is the information that we are using, that is the only way through which we can then make sure that the right information goes to the right people. So hopefully that is helpful. On the final slide, I have, as a holding position, if we could just flip on, included the details of my much mentioned customer support desk, both their email address and the phone numbers, as well as the times and opening hours for both those services.